How's it going out there, YouTubers? Cyberneticshark here with another new movie review for you. So let's go right into this review and see what I saw. So welcome to an all-new movie review out there in YouTube land and YouTubeville and all the Twitter spheres all over the place. How's it going, people? Yeah. So anyway, this movie review is of a film I saw a couple weeks ago now. Came out the beginning of July, and I saw it probably the weekend it came out, I believe, and I'm just finally getting around to doing the review for it. But this is such an amazing film, another great Marvel edition, a great kind of conclusion, new beginnings to the next phase in Marvel's phase and storylines, and just a really fun and awesome sequel to its predecessor. Now, this film I'm talking about, of course, is, you probably guessed it, Spider-Man Far From Home. Oh yeah! So Spider-Man Far From Home is the sequel to Homecoming, and also is a direct linkly to Avengers Endgame. Really kind of an end cap to Avengers Endgame, even though Endgame is considered technically the end of Phase 3. Now, this film, I was really surprised at where they took it and what they did with it, and that I really didn't know much about this film going into it. I knew a premise, but after actually watching it, I was really shocked at where they went with it and how Mysterio came about and all this kind of cool stuff and how this really worked. And I thought that was a really clever and unique and just really well done and thought out plan by Marvel Studios themselves. Now, this film has an all-star cast. We have a lot of returning people from the first film. We have an addition of a few people that have already been introduced into the awesome Marvel Universe that, have a bigger type of role in the film. And it's just a really awesome cast. Now, to start off this cast, we have none of the director himself that returns from directing also Homecoming itself, Mr. John Watts. Oh yeah! So John Watts, like I said, directed the awesome Homecoming. He's also directed a few other films over the years, but a couple that he has directed that were considered, successes. One of them is a straight-up horror story, and then the other one is kind of like a psychological thriller type of film, which I found very interesting that he went from that kind of genre to doing superhero films, which I think is a really amazing feat and is just really well done. Now, the first film I'm going to talk about is a film that came out a few years ago and is considered one of his first films that was kind of a big success. This movie is considered like kind of a cult classic simply for the fact that it's one of an only kind of itself. They've talked about these characters, this type of person many times, made them into horror icons, but this one really just was very true and realistic to how it would really possibly could be in real life. And that, of course, is a film called Clown. Oh yeah, Clown. I actually have not seen this film, but I have seen the trailer. I have read a lot about it, and this is just a really interesting and really well done and executed film by John Watts. He directed the crap out of it. A ton of people love the film, thought it was like one of a kind. It's a insta classic. It's a a new type of horror film that they hadn't seen before at the time when it came out, and that it just delved into some interesting, aspects and gave us these interesting new takes on, what an evil clown could be. And I thought that was kind of interesting that where he took the film and how the whole idea behind it came about. And I thought that was a really well done and executed directing by him. And just was a really decent and well done film. The second film that Mr. John Watts directed was an awesome film that starred Kevin Bacon that came out a few years ago that I thought was a really decent and interesting thriller type of film. And this film actually was considered kind of a success for its time when it first came out too, and took things to a new height, was an interesting type of thriller aspect, but along with a great bad guy kind of persona that, kids got involved with and they had to deal with it basically. And that's pretty much what this film is pretty much about. And of course is the film that starred the awesome Kevin Bacon, Cop Car. Oh yeah, Cop Car, which is actually, like I said, a really decent film. I thought John Watts did an amazing job with the film. I thought with what he had to deal with in the film, the premise, the architect, the everything about the film, he did a really great thriller aspect type of job. And he really brought a new sense of, creepiness to the film too as well, along with how great of a job Kevin Bacon did playing the main villain character. And I thought that the kids involved in it did a really great job too as well, and they all worked really cohesively. And I thought John really did a great job of directing that and giving us this interesting thriller. Definitely not the greatest film, but still it was very decent and definitely worth watching. If you haven't seen it, definitely check out Cop Car. It's worth the watch at least once. Definitely an interesting film and a surprise ending. Now it comes to John Watts directing, of course, Spider-Man Far From Home. Once again, he hits out of the ballpark. He brought a great Spider-Man film, gave us this whole new, new take on who Peter Parker is, where he's at, where he's, developed, and basically gave this awesome and new, basically bringing to life another great supervillain that we've been waiting to see on the big screen forever, and that's, of course, Mr. Mysterio. And just the whole elements of everything about the film, it was so beautifully crafted with the CGI work. They did an amazing job bringing the elementals to life and just giving us this great, first run to Mysterio as well, along with helping us to see where Peter has developed, giving us this great aspect of, where his mind is at now after, the events of Endgame and Infinity War, and how, he needs to move on without Tony, and that he needs to kind of become the new super big hero, for the new Avengers, or, so forth and stuff like that. And just how he has to deal with, something of trying to be an adolescent instead of trying to be the superhero like he was in Homecoming. So I thought that was a really interesting, switcheroo that they did with this film, kind of turning it around, having Peter want to be a normal kid and, changing that up. And I thought that was a really great directing job by Mr. John Watts. So that brings me to the awesome cast of this film. So like I said before, a lot of returning people from the first film have returned. We have some great Marvel Studio characters that have already been in several films that are thrusted into this awesome film and are main part of the cast, and which I thought was really great. This is just a really well-rounded cast again that just did a really great job. So to start off, of course, we have Mr. Spider-Man himself, Mr. Tom Holland! Oh yeah! So Tom Holland, of course, you recognize from the first Spider-Man. You might recognize from Civil War. You might recognize him from, a few other films over the years and so forth. Now, a couple films I really enjoyed him and thought he was fantastic in was none other than an awesome film that came out in 2015 that was directed by Ron Howard and also starring Thor himself, Mr. Chris Hemsworth, in The Heart of the Sea. Oh yeah! So this awesome film, which is based on the story that Moby Dick is based off of, the actual true account of the whaling ship, the Essex. Now, this awesome movie was brought to you from a novel that was written by Nathaniel Nabrick, who, gave us basically a newer take on what that actual story was, where Marvin Melville got his story from to create Moby Dick, basically. And the movie itself just shows you the real account of what happened and what these men endured and what they had to deal with this rogue, sperm whale. And the movie itself is just amazingly done and so well, and I love Tom Holland in the film. I thought he was great as the, first mate kid and character that he portrays that, is one of the main kind of crew people. And I just thought he brought to life that character, gave us that great aspect of who he was and, what those men did endure and, what inspired Moby Dick. And I thought that, he did a really great job of just giving us that character, giving us a great performance, and just being a part of a great film. Really amazing film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, people. In the Heart of the Sea, amazing. Now that brings me to the second film Mr. Tom Holland was in that I thought was a really fantastic film. Now, this film that I'm going to talk about is another great film that I haven't had a chance to check out yet, but I have seen previews. I've read a lot about it. I've seen bits and clips from, on, social media and all that kind of stuff. And this movie looks really interesting. It's another based on true story event and has a great ensemble cast in the film as well. And that, of course, is the film called The Lost City of Z. Oh, yeah. So Lost City of Z, which is based on a true story about basically this gentleman that went and was looking for the lost city of gold, basically. And that's pretty much, what the movie's about this gentleman's life, what he went through, what he did to get to where he was, to get to finding that Mayan city, and so forth, and stuff like that. And Tom Holland plays one of the characters in the film. And from what I saw in the previews and from the little bits and clips I've seen, from my perspective, I thought Tom Holland looked like he did a really good job, and that he was a great integral character to that film, and that he gave us this really, different, approach to his acting abilities versus what he's done already that we've seen him as Spider-Man, and that he actually has some pretty good acting chops on him, and that he has a lot more to give. And I thought, from what I saw, that he really does have really great acting talent and did a great job on the film. Looking forward to checking out that film eventually soon, and definitely something that, I've heard a lot of great things about. So if you haven't seen it too, definitely check it out, people. It's worth the watch, I heard, and a decent role by Tom Holland. Now it comes to portraying, again, Mr. Peter Parker in this awesome Spider-Man film. Once again, Tom Holland, he did not let down. I love where he took the character. I love how he progressed. And also, I love how he kind of reverted to wanting to be a kid and trying to not be Spider-Man, and giving us that aspect of what, Peter Parker is. And I love that he, showed another vulnerable side to himself in this film and gave us this really great, awesome performance that, once again was Spider-Man, and I think is one of the best Spider-Mans to date. Really impressive, really well done, and a great job by Tom Holland. Next up on the acting roster, we have none other than Mr. Mysterio himself, Mr. Jake Gyllenhaal. Oh yeah! So Jake Gyllenhaal, we all recognize from films like Brokeback Mountain, Nightcrawler, Nocturnal Animals, Donnie Darko. So many films over the years that he has produced and made that are just really phenomenal and awesome and excellent performances. But a couple of films I really enjoyed him and thought he was the best in was none other than an awesome film that came out in 2004 starring Dennis Quaid. And this awesome action-packed flick is, like a natural disaster movie that I just thought was really awesome, really well done, and just really beautiful CGI quality for 2004. And that, of course, is a film called The Day After Tomorrow. Oh, yeah. Absolutely love this disaster movie. I think it's fantastic. It's along the lines of, like, Poseidon Adventure, Earthquake, all those awesome kind of natural disaster movies. And Roland Emmerich definitely didn't, the word I'm looking for. What is the word I'm looking for, people? Did not disappoint. That's right. I wanted to get that point across. Did not disappoint. Did not disappoint. Yeah. But still did an amazing job with the film, and I absolutely loved Jake Gyllenhaal's character in the film. I thought he did a fantastic job. Did a really amazing and great performance, portraying this kid of Dennis Quaid, and just giving us this kind of like very, teen-like character that would, who would have to deal with something like this and trying to survive and, help other people out and so forth. And I just thought he did a really great job in the film. I think he was great in it. I thought he worked so well with everyone, and it just was a really well done film too as well. If you haven't seen Day After Tomorrow for Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, definitely check it out, people. It's worth the watch. So that brings me to the second film Mr. Jake Gyllenhaal was in. And that, of course, is an awesome film that was directed by Duncan Jones that came out a few years ago that I thought was a fantastic sci-fi action thriller that Jake did an amazing job in. I love his character. I love everything about the film itself. It's just a really awesome film and just really fun to watch. And that, of course, is the film called The Source Code. Oh, yeah. So The Source Code basically is about this military gentleman who's played by Jake Gyllenhaal that keeps getting re-sent back in time to try to stop basically a disaster from happening. And he only has a certain time limit that he can do this in. And so he keeps basically repeating it and going back and trying to stop it, basically. And it's just a really awesomely done and directed film by Duncan Jones. And Jake just did an amazing job portraying the character. I love where he took the character. I love his interaction with everyone that was involved in the film. And just, I thought he brought a great presence to the film of just like this really superb acting ability. And gave us this really great kind of, you know, stability of the character. He gave us a great in-depth look into his soul, basically, I felt, with this performance. And how he really brought to life, you know, the emotions and, you know, the anxieties of dealing with this situation and trying to fix it. And I thought that Jake did a great job with bringing that to life. Great performance by him. Really enjoyed him in it. And if you haven't seen the source code, definitely check it out, people. It's worth a watch. Especially if you like the movie Moon, you'll love this movie too. Really classic. Now, it comes to Jake's performance of Mysterio. He was top-notch. I mean, I was really impressed with him portraying the character because he did such a great job of pushing you in a different direction of who his character is and really bringing to life who Mysterio is. And he did that flawlessly and just was a great, you know, antagonist, a great bad guy, just really brought to life who, you know, Mysterio was and how he is really one of, you know, Spider-Man's biggest villains. And just really did a great job of interacting with everyone and giving us this great performance. Really enjoyed him, and he was probably one of my favorite parts of the film because he just rocked it really well. Really awesome job by him and great performance by him. If you haven't seen him yet in this, definitely check him out, people. He's awesome. So that brings me to the third actor in this awesome roster of awesomeness. Now, this gentleman, who we've already been introduced to in the awesome Marvel Universe, has finally brought himself into the awesome Spider-Man universe. It was so awesome to see him at a part of this film because he's just an awesome character. I love this actor anyways and think he's amazing. And that, of course, is Mr. Samuel L. Jackson. Oh, yeah! Mr. Nick Fury himself, people. So Nick Fury, we finally get him to be a part of the equation in the Spider-Man universe. And he's kind of like the Tony Stark of Far From Home versus how Tony Stark was kind of the, you know, the leading or guiding line for Spider-Man in the first film. And I thought it was great to see Sam Jackson play this character. He was so awesome, so amazing. Once again, to reprise the role and get to see him again, and it was just really a pleasure to have him portray this character again and just give this, you know, great Samuel L. Jackson character. But a couple of films I really enjoyed Samuel Jackson in that I thought he was fantastic in was none other than an awesome film that came back out in 1998. And I think it's a very underrated underwater disaster sci-fi type of film that was based off of a book written by Michael Crichton. And that, of course, is the movie called Sphere. Oh, yeah. Sphere is such an amazing film. It's such a great just sci-fi awesomeness. Lots of great CGI effects for its time. Great acting by everyone involved. You had Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone. You even had Queen Latifah in it. I mean, you had this awesome cast. And it's just so well directed by Barry Levinson. And just Sam Jackson's character was so amazing. And just brought to life such a great, amazing character for the book. And just gave us this, like, kind of very dramatic role versus, you know, just a sci-fi type of role that you aren't sure where he's going or who he really is, or, you know, he kept you on the edge of your seat, like, is he really the bad guy? Is he not the bad guy? Is he under influence? You know, he did an amazing job with that and gave us this great performance that I think is very underrated and I think is a really great performance by Samuel Jackson. Really great film. If you haven't seen Sphere, definitely check it out, people. Sphere is awesome. Really well done film. Very good. So that brings me to the second film Mr. Sam L. Jackson was in. So this film, of course, just came out at the beginning of this year and is a sequel to the awesome film Split and a sequel to the awesome film Unbreakable. And this awesome film has Mr. Samuel Jackson reprise his awesome character from Unbreakable. And that, of course, is a film called Glass. Yeah, Glass. Such an amazing film. This film was really fantastic. It was a great, you know, ending to an awesome already trilogy that, you know, M. Night Shyamalan was putting together. I still do not love the ending, but the ending still I can understand why they went that way. But at the same time, still Samuel Jackson's performance of Mr. Glass was awesome and amazing. His performance was priceless, perfection, and just showed true Mr. Samuel Jackson's acting ability, because he is just so awesome as the character. Just did an amazing job. It was great to see him reprise the role a little bit older, a little wiser, and to see where this character, what he actually has done since he was an Unbreakable, being put into a mental institution and all that kind of stuff. And Sam did a great job of bringing that to life and giving us this great villain that could be a real villain in real life. And I thought that was fantastic. Really amazing job. If you haven't seen Glass yet, definitely check it out, people. It's worth the watch. Out on Blu-ray, 4K, and DVD now. Definitely pick it up or rent it. It's an amazing film, really well done, and a great part of the awesome Glass trilogy, or the Unbreakable trilogy, I would like to call it. Amazing film, really well done. And so, as like I was saying before about Nick Fury's performance, Mr. Samuel Jackson in Spider-Man: Far From Home, it was awesome. It was really well done. Really classic Samuel Jackson. Great to see Nick Fury again. It was nice to see him kind of in a different capacity like he was in previous films. And definitely just a really fantastically well done performance by Mr. Samuel Jackson. He was once again perfect as Nick Fury and just a great addition to the film. Looking forward to more from Mr. Samuel Jackson. Great performance. Definitely check out his performance in Spider-Man: Far From Home, people. It's worth the watch. So that brings me to the final actor I'll be talking about in this awesome roster of films, people, in the awesome Spider-Man: Far From Home. So this film, or actor I should say, is an awesome actor that I think is always great in comedy. He's great in pretty much any aspect that he's put into, but he does have some great acting chops and can do serious roles and can do thrillers, action, and just is an awesome actor that I feel should get more roles. And that, of course, is Mr. Martin Starr. Oh, yeah. So you might recognize Martin Starr, of course, from the great show Freaks and Geeks. You might recognize him from This Is the End as himself. You might recognize him from a few other things over the years. But a couple of films I really enjoyed him and thought he was fantastic in was none other than an awesome film that came back out in 2005 or 6. I think it was 6, I think it came out. And this awesome Seth Rogen-led film with Katherine Heigl, he plays a character named Martin in the film, and it's just really awesome and funny. And that, of course, is a film called Knocked Up. Oh, yeah. Absolutely love Knocked Up. Such a funny film, so hilarious. Lots of great comedy, and just really funniness, and just a great kind of Judd Apatow film that just, brings kind of the humor, family life and happiness together, which is really always fun in these films. And Martin Starr was just so awesome in film. I loved his character, especially when they're like giving him a hard time about the beard, him having to grow the beard out to make money and stuff like that. He just was so freaking hilarious in it and just did a great job. Really enjoyed Martin Starr in the film and looking forward to more from him. Now that brings me to the second film that Mr. Martin Starr was in that I thought was a really fun film. Now this film is actually based off of an awesome TV series that, that was a really awesome series that was so well developed by Rob Thomas that, is kind of very similar to the great iZombie show that's on now and starred the awesome and amazing, clan of people that are just really awesome. Kristen Bell was in it and so forth. And this is actually a movie about the show, and Martin Starr plays a character in the film. And then, of course, the film called Veronica Mars. Oh, yeah. Absolutely thought this was a fantastic film that they finally got made for the Veronica Mars TV series, kind of, giving you a little look into what Veronica Mars has been up to. And Martin Starr actually plays the main villain in the film, and he is absolutely freaking stupendous in it. He played the character so well because he had a little comedic element to it. At the same time, he really got to show his thriller dramatic element role to it, and I thought he did a fantastic job of playing this bad guy. He just was so awesome, and it was wonderful to see him play a different type of role. And I just thought it was a really, great performance. Really well done. If you haven't seen the Veronica Mars movie, check it out for Martin Starr's performance. He was really superb in it and did a great job in the film and just was a really great villain bad guy and just an all-around great performance as well. Now, it comes to his character in Spider-Man: Far From Home. It was great to see him back as the teacher that was in Homecoming. He was so hilarious. It was great to see him have a few more scenes in this one. where he was a part of the field trip that was going on, and just him and JB Smoove working together was so hilarious. And just, it was a great performance, and it was so great to see him as a part of this film again. And he just, once again, he was so hilarious and just awesome. I can't say any more but that he's so good at doing comedy and just his performances. He's just really amazing actor, and I really enjoy seeing him in things. And he was another great pleasure about this film. Really well done performance, and worth seeing if you're a huge Martin Starr fan. So, if you're not familiar with what Spider-Man Far From Home is about, so basically the movie takes place directly right after Endgame ends. And basically Peter is trying to pick up the pieces of, trying to live on without Tony Stark. And basically he ends up going on a field trip with his school to Europe for the summer. And basically it's about him encountering the elementals, encountering Mysterio, and basically all what happens with encountering that and having to deal with helping out Nick Fury in the process. It's a really fun film, really amazing, really well done. Giant 10 golden movie boxes up on this one, guys. Really superb, another great film. I thought it was even better than Homecoming. Just another great addition to how the awesome Spider-Man universe. Just a really well-rounded film. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely go check it out in theaters now, people. It's worth the watch. Can't wait for it to come out on Blu-ray, 4K, and DVD, and so I can pick it up and add it to the collection. Just an all-around really well-rounded, amazing film. Just superb, excellent, and just fun to watch. Like I said, if you haven't seen it, definitely check out, people. Worth the watch. So that's it for this movie review, guys. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. And also, thank you for subscribing. And if this is your first time here, if you've been here before and you haven't hit the subscribe button, what do I got to do? Have Spidey shoot his web on you and keep your hand on there until it dissolves to make you hit it? Come on, people. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss this awesome video or any of the awesome videos I put up. As always, people, keep your eyes out for any older or newer videos you might not have seen yet. And also, people, let's get me to that classic 200 subscribers and get that contest going, people. Don't forget, everyone that subscribes will be entered into this awesome contest to win a cool, awesome prize once I hit 200 followers. And as always, people, check out the awesome Stardust app as well, which is an awesome, cool little, free app that you can get on Android or your iOS phone. And as always, people, check out the awesome horror pack too, link down below. Get awesome 4 Blu-rays or 4 DVDs of horror goodness to your door every month for a great low price. And as always, check in the next one.